All right, well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the April virtual workshop for the CRA. We're excited this month to have Donna Pilson, the Executive Director with Rebuild Bay, joining us to give us an update on this program and all that she's been doing over at A.D. Harris with her team. And we're just excited for that. We're also joined by Deputy Executive Director of the CRA, Ms. Waldron. And then on the perimeter, you can't see them, but they're in here. Our two CRA program managers, Lena Webb and Michelle Zirkle, as well as CRA Assistant City Attorney Joy Marler. So again, excited to be here today, and I will share my screen and start the presentation and then turn it over to Ms. Pilson. Everybody able to hear us okay? Great. Going to share mode. Minimize that. Go to PowerPoint. Share. And I believe, are y'all able to see only the presentation, or can you see the presenter view?
Presenter view with notes.
Okay, hang tight 1 second. No, what'd I do? Oh, I don't know why it doesn't. There we go. So that should be good. And let me just find my arrow right here and we will be good. 1 second. I don't know why it does this sometimes. Hang on 1 second. There we go. See, it gets in there for just a second.
Technology does get older, harder as you get older, doesn't it?
It does. It does. So I deserve.
My dad has a hard time with Zoom as well, Jonathan. Don't worry about that.
Yeah. No, why you can't.
You need you need Nevin to help you with that?
Oh,
so it's sharing it. Yeah, it's okay. Swap it.
There. It
Yeah,
should be.
but the problem is the arrow is not. See what I mean? It should be down there so that she can click on it. But I think if we hit space, just tell me when to advance, and I'll hit space bar. So all yours, Ms. Pilson. Go ahead.
Okay. So good afternoon. Thanks again for this opportunity. I didn't realize I had speaker notes, so it's maybe some gremlin went and put them in, but they look pretty good. But I always appreciate the opportunity to be able to talk about what we're doing at A.D. Harris, because it's such a great opportunity to do something with that facility, something meaningful, and I'm excited about the work that we have going on there. Next slide. I like to remind the board and staff here of what our charge was, and that was for the redevelopment or management of the facility with these three areas in mind: economic development, community facilities, and amenities, and then also the neighborhood character and identity. So we keep that in mind as we look at any of the work that we're doing at that facility. Next slide.
All right, hang on 1 second. Sorry. For some reason, it will not let me get my arrow down here. Hang on 1 second, guys. Sorry. Is that the next slide?
Can I talk about you?
Yeah, sorry. Yep, you're good.
So we did the request.
Okay.
And then so our goals, we look at it from two standpoints or two major areas, and that's the actual facility and then the programming and services that we're looking to put at or to conduct from that facility. We went in with the first goal in mind to stabilize the facility, understand the expenses, understanding the avenues for revenue against expenses, and try to reduce expenses as much as we can to make it all balance out. We do that through our partnerships as well as our volunteers that come in. And ultimately, we want sustainable operations with a facility that is capable of handling those operations, and then the programming and the services that go along with that. Yeah, next slide. I guess that's a build slide. Okay, you can build that out. You can go to the next one. So when we take a look at go to the next one, take a look at the facility maintenance updates and repairs. So we can't be there without uncovering some things. So as we open up different spaces and we utilize the facility more, obviously we're going to uncover a bunch of maintenance issues. Over the past year, so we've had about a year and a half now to look at it. We've some of the major things that have gone on was within our kitchen, we replaced the freezer that had vines growing out of it. And we've also looked at updated the fire suppression system that allows us to be able to operate the stove and all of the heating elements within the kitchen. And then also looking at the water heater. So we had a big event there, and right after that, we lost all of our hot water. So we had someone come in and take a look at that, and we've addressed that. One thing to note, so the major work that had to be done, we went ahead and had that done. I mean, it's something that just by utilizing that equipment, that work had to be done. So we went ahead and did that, and then submitted those delayed maintenance type issues or receipts for that work to the CRA for reimbursement. I like to highlight here that for every one of the projects that we did, we were able to leverage other funds. And so we had donations that came in. We've actually, the electrical company came in and basically took a look at the work and did that work at no cost to us because of the mission that we were doing there. And then also being able to take advantage of rebates for the the new hot water heaters. Next slide. So that's the kitchen. And then we uncovered we've had an issue with the plumbing since we've been there, and that's campus wide. And so obviously the more we use it, the more we uncover. And so we've had several backups across the campus with the toilets. We've had our kitchen backup in the middle of one of our distributions. We had the floor was completely covered with water in the kitchen. So we had to have someone come in and take a look at that. We did have that company look at what is the long-term thing that we need to be looking at. And they've made some suggestions. So we've been talking with the CRA on what those suggestions are and what that actually means for the city and what the city can do with the city maintenance department. Our electrical work, we've had some of the breakers go out in areas as we go to turn on lights, and we've had, they're old. All of our breaker boxes are old. A lot of the tracing and the notes that are in the boxes have been rubbed off, and so we're recommending to the CRA in the city that we just take a look at that and see if we can, at a minimum, trace the electrical lines to the right boxes so that we know what controls what, and then at least do a relabeling. And so since our last meeting, the city has we have had city maintenance come out and look at the plumbing as well as the electrical to see what can be done, what should be done, so that we can so that they can make some long-term solution recommendations. So next slide. All right, and then just a list of projects that we showed you this during our first review of projects that we want to do at the facility, and we're adding some and we're getting some completed. So all of the ones with check marks are the ones that we've completed to date, and we get those taken care of through a variety of ways. So we are making good progress with our desired facility projects. Super excited about the decision to award the HRP project, because that will get some of the major work done that we've been wanting. So the paving of the parking lot is absolutely needed, and amazing that we can go forward with that. Next slide. And then just some additional projects that are more of our do-it-yourself type projects that we do with volunteers and the small staff that we have. Things like installing some of the projectors and the screens. We did install a projector and the screen in the cafeteria. Super excited about that. We got that at no cost when Career Source Gulf Coast moved its location. So we were able to get a lot of office equipment and supplies from them to really make the campus come alive. And we've been working through those projects one by one. All right, next slide. All right, so we when we got this agreement, we also assumed several leases, and most of those leases are 5-year leases. We had one that was a 2-year lease. All of those leases are expiring this year. So we've taken a look at that, and in the context of standing up a community resilience center, we've had a meeting with to date. We've had a meeting with all but one of the tenants to kind of get their idea of where they want to go moving forward. Because this still falls within our agreement period, we expect that we would put that new lease in place. Our board has met and taken the recommendations that our staff put before them, and we're looking at offering each of the existing tenants up to a 2-year lease, and we just think that 5 years was a little bit too long, particularly for a nonprofit. So we're going to start with we're looking at starting with a 2-year lease, and in some cases we are offering different space, and in a couple of cases we're all looking at increasing their rate. And just because if we look at the market rate for space, we are well below that. Our leases currently, the lease rate range from $5 a square foot to almost $10 a square foot. So what we're trying to do over a period of time is get a little bit closer to that $10 a square foot, understanding that we cannot make that huge jump at once. So so a couple of those that are that we are offering, that we're looking at a rate increase, those two we have already talked to, and we have given them what that step increase would look like. And so one gladly accepted it, and one we're still waiting for a response on that. But we've always known that we would have to look at our existing tenants, and for the model to work, we have to have some long-term lease space as well as some open space for community activities. So we have been evaluating what that mix needs to be, and I think that 4 to 5 tenants is just about right. And I think that that'll keep the lights on, keep the maintenance going, and also give us the space that's required to be able to offer space for community services.
Next slide.
Yeah, next slide. From a community resilience standpoint, we are well on our way with being able to open that up. We have established a food pantry. Super excited about that. We've started weekly distributions, and recently started a hot meal service with one of our partners. So we are making that cafeteria active. The next thing is to get the kitchen completely open. We started a soft opening of Resilience Center. So I've already said, in order to be able to open it as a Resilience Center, we needed to be able to have someone in the front office that catch people to do the intake and to start that case management. We are able to do that now 2 days a week, and we're testing that flow out, and expect to be able to fully open as a Resilience Center sometime later on after the summer. We are transforming spaces to get to our long-term solution, our digital lift zone. We expect to transform that media center into that digital lift zone where folks can come in and use computers. They can come and apply for services. Just a neat space that we're thinking about for that media center, and looking at being able to do that after VITA Prep Services leaves that space. And we already have a project manager on board, as well as a volunteer group to do that work. And then we've had some initial discussions with Haney for bringing some of their classes over to the facility, and we are continuing on with those discussions. Next slide. So I wanted to show the pictures. So those are our 4 new tankless water heaters, some of the work that we've done, and then our new freezer, and then a couple of shots of the pantry and the cooler. So pantry shelves look pretty empty right now, which that's a kind of a good thing. That means that we're establishing a system to be able to receive food and then distribute food as well. Next slide. And then also wanted to show the projector and the screen that we've been able to mount in the cafeteria. We're about 98% done with that. We have one last piece of connection to do for that, and then that'll be up and running, and we can make that available to whoever uses that facility. We had a shed built between the cafeteria and the gym, and that's just because we have very little storage on site, and so that's mostly our tables and our chairs for the cafeteria. Next slide. And then we have started with community events, and so we are learning as we go. We've had several events there. We are in agreement with our lead coalition to have moved the Glenwood Marketplace to that facility for every first and third Saturdays. That has been a win-win. And then we are looking at sourcing a summer feeding for this summer. So I want to open up that cafeteria. We have babies on site, and we are looking to be able to provide a better foods for not just those that are coming to the facility, but also their families. We do have a request to host a STEM camp, and we have an organization that has all of the workings of that camp put together. They just needed a location, and we're in discussions on how to accommodate that. And then we also have a request for a statewide convention from one of our local churches. And so we're evaluating the space for that as well. So our goal is to make the facility fully active. Next slide. And then obviously we're not without challenges. These are mostly what I showed you last time. We still have a lot of foot traffic, but the HRP project will pretty much eliminate that when we close down or close in the fence in the inner campus. We do have some damage fencing around the campus, which again, some of that will be taken care of with the HRP project. And then we're looking at how we can kind of alleviate or relieve some of the pressure on one of the bathrooms that services most of the tenants. It's just a lot of traffic. And so with a lot of traffic, that just opens it up to more maintenance issues. And then we continue to have, and we work through this, but for some reason that campus just has a lot of ants. And so we are working through that. And I know that seems small, but when we're looking at trying to bring in the community to be able to use some of the grassy areas when we have as many ant beds as we have, we just have to keep a close watch on that. And then having the babies on campus as well. Next slide. And then just some additional pictures of some things that we are identified as kind of issues that need to be fixed in some way or need to be addressed, and we're not quite sure how to do that just yet. So the bottom picture of the fence, we do expect that will be replaced as part of the HRP project. So I think that we can check that one off. I don't even know what that radio tower thing is, but I think at a minimum we could probably get some folks in there to clear that out. But that's one that's kind of a what do we do with this thing right here? And then the kitchen has a huge dishwasher in there. All of the water tank and everything, all of the mechanics of that have already been removed. And so we are looking at what can and should be done with that. That's not something that we expect to ever make active. But it's not just something that you just kind of pull out. So that's something that is just on our radar, but it's not a big issue. We can certainly use that space, but just put it out. I just put it in there to kind of highlight it's on our radar. And then that's all I have. If you have any, do you have any questions?
We'll start with you, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, I had to stop my treadmill or I would fall off. I tried to walk and think at the same time.
That might go viral. I would love to see that.
It would, wouldn't it? I'm sure you would. You mentioned tenants being nonprofits. Is that correct?
The tenants are all nonprofits. That's correct.
I love that. One of the things that when I lived in Birmingham, before I moved back to Panama City, there was a nonprofit resource center, which helped nonprofits just understand, people start nonprofits with that. They love cats and they want to help cats, or they love kids. And then they're like, taxes, fundraising, paperwork. And so I love the idea of helping the helpers. I love that idea. And I'm glad to see that you're doing that. And any sort of programming. I love that you're working with Community Bank, Jason Crow, and that whole crew are amazing. And would love to see. I know Leads Coalition does a lot of education on finance too, and so I think this what you're doing is amazing and it's a great use of the building. And I'm so thankful for it.
Thank you.
Anybody else want to go? I don't see any hands up. Commissioner Lucas, I see you're unmuted.
Yes, I did want to give my colleagues the opportunity to say their pieces, their thoughts, their questions before responding.
Understood. All right. Any other commissioners want to go? Commissioner Street, I see you've unmuted.
Yeah, Donna. I mean, it's great. I mean, this asset was very underutilized, I'd say, like when we had it for so many years. And I love the fact that some of these nonprofit relationships are continuing. I hope that those still continue. Definitely understand the dynamics that exist and trying to make a budget work. And I think you're doing a good job managing it. Obviously, see your time and effort going into everything you're doing, and so. Thank you for being a part of it, and hopefully facility continues to grow and expand, and you guys' work there does the same.
Awesome. Commissioner Granger or Commissioner Hughes, would you like to go next? Go ahead, Commissioner Granger. I see you unmuted.
Yeah, sure. So I will echo what the mayor and Commissioner Street has said already. I would encourage more of the train helpers type organization or activities. So my question is, and again, I think it's great that this space has been activated, and I think there's more great things to come here as well. What do you most need? I guess would be the best question to ask. Like, what is it that out there that either we can help with or that the community can help with? What is the number one thing that you, if you could just wave a wand, have tomorrow, what would it be?
Yeah, so just continuing to partner on the major maintenance issues. The water, and I told Lena coming in here that I forgot my visual aid. I didn't bring the pipe. It's an old facility. And so those major issues, we've been, I think, fairly successful in being able to pull in additional resources to make to get some of the things fixed. But some of those major issues, like the piping across the campus, is something that we definitely need some help with. That affects our water coming in and our water going out. And when we have, the more we make the facility active, the more we're going to uncover those issues until they're fixed, right, or addressed. And so we can come to the table with some solutions, but we're just going to need some help with that. So that's probably the biggest thing that we need help with.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Hughes, anything, sir?
Yes. Sorry for my tardiness. The old man summoned me to have a discussion, so you have to say yes. So thank you for doing what you're doing. And something I'd like to piggyback on is a question. Training that's going on there, are we training for a career? Are we training for a specific job type? I'm big on the technical college now because my son went through it, and I'm ashamed to say that I worked across the street from Haney for 20 years and never went in there until took the tour. But it's an amazing place, and I think your E-Fleet is amazing. I will tell you that we didn't have any grass when I went there. We shot marbles in the dirt out there, so we didn't have an ant problem. But we need to get that taken care of. What technical or training not-for-profits or programs are there? And again, you might have already said that, and my tardiness may help that question.
No, that's fair. So our goal, Rebuild Bay, as the managers of the facility, our goal is to get the facility to a point that you can have a variety of activities, programs, and services that go on. So it is not our mission per se to do all of that training, but if we can make the facility available, then we can attract places like Haney or some other type of workforce development type program. But we are looking right now, our focus right now is on the facility. Get the spaces to where they can do services or do programming, and then start to negotiate with those organizations that can bring that in. Last year, we did have a community resilience workshop series that allowed us to be able to do, and we did that under the Rebuild Bay name to allow us to do like financial literacy, to do some disaster prep and some training and workshops around that. But your workforce development type training, your career type training, we would look to other organizations to bring that programming to the facility.
Okay, and I guess my question was really meant about was meant about that. Yes. I mean, what organization, not necessarily you, but okay. So that's good. Get
So
Carlton. Doesn't Carlton
Haney
work
is a
there
big
with
one.
you?
Yes, so Carlton
Yes,
now
ma'am.
works with us. He had been volunteering with us for a while. And really, I give him kudos because having someone like him on staff kind of allows us to be able to move forward with a bunch of our more of our operational type issues. I do the back shop, I do the finances, those type of things, but having someone that can go out in the field and negotiate with some of the folks to do the work has been amazing. So that's accelerated the work that we've been able to do. Our discussions with Haney, we have offered up certain spaces that would be good for them to have like hybrid classes. They can also do in-person classes. They have they were looking at bringing their HVAC courses over because that's something that they're maxed out at their current campus. And so we have a space that they can do that. So they have enough to go back and do whatever they need to do to make a alternate campus work for them. We just provided or making the space available to do that.
Okay. Okay. Well, your wonderful job, and thank you for your service. And where we can help, we need to.
Okay. Thank you.
Commissioner Street, your hand's up. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, Donna, I guess one of the things I want to know, how are we doing on the target of the 5-year plan? So we kind of started this, getting the facility into a self-sustaining piece. How are you feeling about that? Are we on target? Are we behind? Are we sooner?
Right.
Or what do you see?
I actually think we're doing pretty good. And so we in our first few months we went in. I know that it was operating at a deficit, I believe.
Yes.
We went in and we started looking at there were some minor things that just being on site that we made some adjustments in that allowed us to be able to save. That first few months we were saving about $1,300 a month. And so, let me back up. We were saving about $1,000 a month, and then we increased our revenue about $1,300 a month. And just making some minor adjustments. Like a simple one was the number of trash pickups that we were doing. And we were doing 3 trash pickups. We got 2 dumpsters on site, and there were 3 trash pickups a week. And no one generates that much trash at that campus. And I think what we found was we were not even getting those 3 pickups, although we were paying for it. So we made that adjustment early on, and that was about $500 a month. And so things like that we looked at, and then taking a look at the spaces. The early education and care had been given. They had a 2-year lease, and they had 4 of the 5 classrooms on that building. That's because in that one building, and that's because that 5th classroom just wasn't ready. It was in bad shape from the last tenant. And so we sat down with them early on. They wanted it. We did not have the resources to get that space up and running fast enough. They were willing to do it. And so we offered it to them. We let them have it. And that increased their rent, and that increased the revenue for the center. So little stuff like that, just being on that hands-on management allowed us to be able to not see the deficit that it was running at. So today we've been kind of like storing up those funds. And now we're almost at the place, our last conversation with our board, we're about at the place where we can start recommending that we recommending a management fee. That's something that we said that we would not do until we got to a point where we felt comfortable with spending whatever we had. And but after a year and a half, I think we're about there. And my board has asked that we propose some type of management fee, which I don't know what that is just yet.
Mr. Mayor, your hand's up, sir.
I love that scrappiness. I tell people in these businesses and organizations that the margin of success is are you able to pick up the nickels and the dimes? And because it's never like, oh my gosh, I just saved myself $1 million today. It's literally turning the lights off. It's picking up the trash less often. And that's why any organization, whether it's a restaurant or a nonprofit, when when the person that cuts the checks is around, they last longer. I mean, you see that with restaurants. As soon as a person has 5 or 6 restaurants, that they start getting a little sloppier, and the margin just disappears. So I love that scrappiness. I appreciate it.
Cool. Anybody else?
So certainly this has been a pet project of mine, and not just since Rebuild Bay was organized after the storm, but my connection with A.D. Harris goes back, as Robbie Hughes talked about, to middle school. When it was a 6th grade center, I was a student there. When I was a reporter, that's when the school district first started talking about divesting of that facility. And you know, my vision was from Tallahassee, the Lincoln School that became the Lincoln Community Center over there, a hub in the community. And it's taken us a long time to get here, you know, to where it's becoming a reality. And my hat is off to Colonel Donald Pilson for bringing the logistical, the management, and the grit to take this facility from one that we just couldn't figure out how to make it sustain itself, to being very much on the road to doing that. I would ask if you would just share a little bit about Carlton Searcy and why he's a dynamic addition to your team, for others who may not be aware of what he brings to A.D. Harris Learning Village.
Yeah, so Carlton is a retired military. I think he's retired Army, and he was a volunteer, and he volunteered to do some of the, you know, at the risk of sounding sexist, I feel like there's certain things that you just need a good man around for, and there's just, I mean, there's just stuff that, like, from fixing the truck to that I couldn't do. I would try it, but I just couldn't do, and that was the mindset. And I told him, you know, he was a volunteer with us, and he was we have a program where we have volunteers install window AC units, and he was helping with that program. And I said, you're here enough, you need to work here. And he's like, hey, I can do it. But he's also a realtor, and so he can help with some of our pricing as we're looking at leasing out, renting out some of the space. And so that's been helpful. And then he has that rapport with some of the volunteer groups. Like I just can't do it all. So we have an agreement with the Keaton House where we're able to get labor, and he can go over there and he can mentor those men that come over to do work. And so it's just a kind of a fix it kind of guy that I can kind of say, go do that. And he can negotiate with a lot of the repair stuff that needs to be done.
Any other questions or comments?
When we have, yes, I just want to say that when we have a resource like this in a low to moderate neighborhood, we are then not only investing in the brick and mortar, but investing in the people. And to get workforce, there's a multiple approach. There are multiple approaches to do that, and one of them is to build within. And this center, Learning Village, certainly allows us to do that. So thank you, and thank your team and your board for making this a reality.
Commissioner Lucas, you're kind of breaking up. I don't know if your Wi-Fi or Ethernet is going wonky or something. So, all right, Mayor, commissioners, anyone else have anything?
I'm good.
All right, go ahead, Ms. Pilson.
Yeah, and I just want to say, so although we're located off of 11th Street, and that's that community in that area kind of helps us kind of determine what types of programs that what the need is and what type of programming that we need to have. But because of our location, and because of what we're doing, and we don't have another one in the county, we service the entire county. And our programming now, because we are partnered with United Way, we're partnered with the Continuum of Care, we are able to use that location to branch out into at least the surrounding 5 county area. And so while, you know, I've heard some some rumblings. I've been in meetings before that, we only address those folks within that area, and that's not the case. This gives us a model. It gives us a jumping off point, and it gives us a model for how we can do community resilience across several counties. And we say that outside of Bay County. When we go to our state meetings, we're saying we're doing a community resilience center here that you can take this model anywhere else in the state and beyond.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much for that update. Thanks for everything you're doing at AD Harris and for Rebuild Bay, and keep up the great work.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Yeah. All right. Take care. Have a good. You're welcome to stay if you want to keep talking about it. Yeah. All right. Thank you, ma'am. All right. We still got a little bit of time ahead of us. I don't know if there's anything that Mayor, Commissioners, I want to talk about as it relates to the CRA. We can kind of have an open forum here.
Yeah, when the last time we spoke or had a meeting, we talked about potentially exploring a borrowing pool. How far along in the research are we with that?
I'm not sure. The what now? Speak up, ma'am.
He was wanting to look at different CRAs do like a loan for just a collection of loans.
Yeah, we said we research it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We don't have any update this evening, sir.
Okay.
Hey, Alan, while we're talking about that, what percentage are you thinking of the TIF to use for lending? That might be helpful because Jan did our number on what we can borrow overall, but is there a percentage you're thinking that's kind of ideal to invest into projects from the TIF in each district? Or, I mean, it could be different for one, but I don't know if you had a benchmark.
Yeah, I have no idea what normal other cities have done. I think it's a very aggressive program to do that. It's in our comp plan already. It's been in the comp plan for 25 years. How we do it, how much Jan sent sort of a max amount based off the current tax base, but part of the thing is you're letting people borrow money cheaply, and then they're adding to the tax base as well. And my thought is we only have 10 years left on the CRA, 12. We only have, and so at some point 18. So at some point, I mean, if this was 5 years out, there's not much window of time to actually execute that program. At 18 years, even better, you can actually do a 10-year loan for somebody and do a gap loan or a bridge loan or sit second on a mortgage, whatever they need to do. The strategy with that I've heard from other CRAs is they care about great projects. They want great projects, but typically a developer, it's the success of the developer making money as long as it hits the tax roll. That's all they really care about. Just projects, buildings on the tax roll, That's the sort of mechanism of or at least the method or lens that a very aggressive CRA looks through. But I'm up for any ideas.
Yeah, so the demolition and site preparation grant program board decision checklist, that's a lot.
Yeah. So first off, attaboy, Mr. Mayor. You're the only one that has submitted your checklist. I just sent a friendly email to your wonderful colleagues, the commissioners. So if y'all could please get that back to us by tomorrow, we would greatly appreciate that. But yes.
So item number 13 only has one item.
Yes, we've made that choice for you, Commissioner, but go ahead and check it. Thank you.
That's the illusion of choice.
We'll have to look at that. I'm not sure. So if you want to add something there, please feel free.
Oh boy.
It's one of those multiple choice with only one choice.
Only get one choice. Direct staff to get it done.
Yeah, direct staff to get us done. Or if you don't want us to even proceed with it, that would be. Although it seemed like all of y'all were supportive of us moving forward. I believe y'all voted to do that. I'm right. They voted.
I'll kind of go over
none of the above.
My thoughts were, everything's in the details of something, and a church was one of the options of a nonprofit, and a church could be only open for 2 hours on a Sunday or a really huge community resource. It's all in the thing versus the entity. And so you have a nonprofit, which could be an office space for something, or you could have a community center like what Rebuild Bay is doing. So even the word nonprofit means hundreds of different things. So to me, it's hard to put a checkbox on this or that when it's all about the use of the thing and the actual thing that they're building. You know, the way I look at the Boys and Girls Club is it's a little mini MLK Rec Center that we don't have to run and program and staff and all the other things. And so to me, it's no different than us funding a park or that sort of stuff. So it's all in the use of the thing.
I would like to ask, Mayor, if you would share with me your thoughts and insights about why the city should be providing these kinds of services like the MLK Rec Center, if I understood what you just said, because when you said, so we don't have to run it.
You broke up on the, could you
Yeah,
restate?
can you repeat the question, Commissioner Lucas, that you did break up in the middle of it?
Okay, does this sound better now that I have my audio, video off? Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am, it does.
So, Mayor, when you said, so we don't have to run it, talk to me about why that's important to you, that the city not be running these kinds of programs.
Well, I think the last presentation was a great example of the scrappiness of private entities and private nonprofits. And it's not that we shouldn't do it. That service should be provided, or I'd love to see those services provided, but those outside entities can do it way more efficiently than we can as an organization in general. That's what I believe, at least personally. So I'd love to see more rec centers and community centers and all those things operate, and us less having to do them ourselves and more just helping the helpers.
So I know you're a man of research. Point me to where you come to this so that I can get a better understanding, as you've probably no doubt understood that I come from a different perspective on that. Because historically the city has invested more in bricks and mortar. You can see that it goes up in value versus investing in people. It's a more long-term in value investment that is not immediately a return. So I kind of get that, but I would like to know a little bit more about the perspectives of my colleagues so that we can talk and more openly and more get to some common ground in how to move forward rather than being at polar opposites.
Yeah, I don't really think we're at polar opposites. I think we all want to provide the most services and things we can for the public for the most for the tax dollar, right? That's the goal. And I mean, look at the scrappiness of the last presentation. The trash, she was monitoring the trash pickup enough to realize that mattered enough and how that would move the needle for her organization. So, you look at YMCAs and all these different resources across the country. Who runs them more efficiently? I mean, certainly government can at certain times. It's all about the personnel, but government typically is just not incentivized as much as a lot of these smaller organizations, private organizations, or nonprofits. That it's just not. It's a completely different structure. I'm not saying that we shouldn't. I'd love to see us provide more facilities. We're probably and when I say we, I don't mean Jonathan. I mean government in general. The animal of government. Now, we probably are better off with facilities than we are. And when I say even managing, I mean more the efficiency of the dollar is all I mean. I don't mean care of the child. I don't mean lovingness towards the people who use it. I mean simply efficiency of the dollar, that tax dollar.
So okay. I would add, I think too, this might help Janice, at least in Alan's perspective may not be exact, but what I've observed is, even in looking at the Boys and Girls Club model versus, the ASAP model, and this is not an attack on ASAP. Like what I want is just an objective step back and evaluate from the standpoint of Boys and Girls Club has created a network across the nation, leveraging anything from NFL football players to private donations from corporations. And that's filtering back into this program that is now very efficient because of its size and scale across the country. And so their ability to offer after school care is the cheapest out of anyone because of their ability to capture not only the financial resources that exist across the nation, but also the creative capital that exists across the nation. And so those are areas where I do agree from the standpoint of where government can probably do better than private enterprise is we can afford to recapture our investment over a 40, 50, even 100-year period in some aspects. So when we talk about building, when we talk about infrastructure, highways, sewer treatment plants, when you make an investment in sewer lines, they're a 70-year outlay. Well, no business really takes into account the full value of a 70-year and can finance over that period of time. So we have a much more efficient ability to create spaces, but the actual operation of those spaces, there's a different motivation and a scrappiness that comes in the private market and from private nonprofits, as in, I feel the urgency to go and seek donations. I feel the urgency to write the grants I need to write. I feel the urgency to stay in contact with my donor base, to ensure that they're well informed of the services that we provide and that we stay on mission, on direction to deliver the actual things that the people that are supporting us care about the most. In government, that tends to problem solve in a different way. It can lead to a very stable approach, but it doesn't lead to a very innovative approach. And definitely from a scrappiness, that is definitely not something that's innate inside the system of government. And that's not to say there aren't cases where, yes, that we need to be involved in. We have waterfront partnership. We have all sorts of things that we're involved in. I don't necessarily see those as bad things, but I do think that when we see these assets get into these people that care, like Donna's a great example, you do see their ability to look in a different way than what we do. For us, we were probably just thinking through the lens of like, well, we pay for the trash service anyway. So, I mean, we might as well go and just say we do it 5 times a week, not recognizing the staff time and the gas and all these other things that come with that. And so it's just a different perspective. And that's not an attack on the process that we have it today. It's done a lot of good, but I do think that there is a better way.
All right. We've got hands raised. Commissioner Hughes?
Yes, sir. Thank you. So, Alan, I'm on piggyback with what you're talking about on infrastructure, or maybe Josh on these investments. If we go do infrastructure, everybody benefits. Help me understand that we give money to a not-profit that doesn't pay back taxes and doesn't. They improve the neighborhood. All boats rise with a rising tide. It's all good. But how if only not-for-profits are going to be the main providers that we provide to? What's the return to the city? Albeit other than the neighborhood getting better, we're trying to get to tax rolls. There's no revenue there to help generate the give that we're doing. So the demolition part of this is, if it's limited, not everybody's going to qualify, but it also helps more people that do qualify if we limit it down on just for not-for-profits. Is that something that we can think about? Because everybody else would be paying taxes back on it. There's a return on our investment. Does that make sense?
Janice, you want to go first before I answer that?
Okay.
No, go right ahead.
Okay. Yeah.
Go right ahead, Alan.
Yeah, absolutely. So I never said only nonprofits. No. I would much rather it be private organizations putting buildings on the tax roll. But for me, when the options are, and they're striping or widening sidewalks or bike villages, which are all very cute, or new street signs that are all very nice ideas, I would to me, the stack of priorities are buildings on the tax roll, nonprofits, cute projects. Because all the cute projects and even helping the nonprofits is an effort to get buildings on the tax roll. So the priority of getting the buildings on the tax roll, to me, trumps all those things. But if I'm going to choose cute and nice to haves versus helping an organization that's been around forever and they have a need and all that, that's why Boys and Girls Club. But that's not my first priority. So in general.
Yeah, when they raise their hands. All right, Commissioner Lucas, go
Okay.
ahead, ma'am.
So thank you. This is a great dialogue, and I appreciate it. It's easier to quantify brick and mortar and numbers and see if we've made a gain. When we look at the gains over time, then we're really looking at people, and quite often nonprofits don't keep the metrics. And so the way I look at government being able to move the needle is to set the metrics. What is it that ultimately we're trying to move and to do with increasing the productivity of our people? Each year we are graduating high school seniors into poverty in Bay County. When I was in education about 10 years ago, and when we first started LEAD, I knew the numbers better than I do now. But I dare say that there are folks who come out of high school, live in Panama City, who don't have a plan. And when I taught at A.D. Harris, I go forward 10 years, 15 years, and I'm seeing my students at the window of fast food restaurants, because that's where they're working. They got through, they got a GED or a high school diploma, but they really didn't move forward, and they're here. And for the city of Panama City, geographically, they're roughly 20 to 30%. So we have a case for making the case for moving the needle, for preparing those trade opportunities and those opportunities to move up. And when we start in K-12, we're actually keeping them off the pathways to which are predominant, unfortunately, in Bay County, off the pathways to bringing down community by drugs, guns, gangs, and that sort of thing. And so my vision of what we would do as a city, look at what it is we're trying to move on the needle. And we say, how can you help us to do that? Just as we would if we've got a building to build, we come up with the schematics, the RFP, and we put it out there. Who can do it? And that's the way I'd like to see us look at it. Quite often Mark McQueen told me, we don't want to pick winners and losers. I've heard that from the county. And so we don't have to pick winners and losers with nonprofits. If we identify service or for them, the service that we want them to do, and how are we going to measure it? The health department is working on reducing diabetes and cancer and so on and so forth. And they do an annual assessment, and the needle's barely moving. Housing the same way, with affordable housing. When you look at it just from a standpoint of the building and the property, and you say, how
Yeah, we
y'all
lost
losing
her.
too?
Yeah,
Okay.
we did. Go ahead, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor had his hand up first. Sorry.
Okay, I'll go next.
I was going to go back to the previous questions about nonprofits and spending money. Even in Memphis, Tennessee, you have if you speak to Memphis has 3 different nonprofits that run their premier parks. One of them runs the zoo. One of them runs the river park. In fact, if you Google MemphisRiverParks.com, I believe it is, and speak to them, I said, well, why didn't I spoke to them like 3 years ago? I said, well, why did Memphis, why are they working with a nonprofit on one of their waterfront parks? And they said, well, because we have an unfair advantage. People will donate to a nonprofit. They don't want to donate more money to the government. People will volunteer for a nonprofit. They don't want to volunteer for government. And they operate at an unfair advantage. And that's the reality. Just like Habitat yesterday when we were talking to them, they said, we get volunteers. And it's like, no one's really volunteering for a private company. And so they just operate with unfair advantages over government at times, and it's a different animal as well. So that's just philosophically, And so, funny enough, the asphalt stuff actually is a contradiction. The asphalt is a contradiction of that belief, which is privatizing things can move it faster. Sandy Creek in Georgia is a really interesting study of privatization of services and how it worked for a few years and then it didn't work. And so, everything's a case-by-case basis, and I'm always looking for more information. So if anyone has any other case studies from other cities about how their CRAs work, I'd just please send them to me. I'm always trying to learn new stuff.
Right.
Okay.
Commissioner Hughes?
Very cool. So I've been spending a lot of time talking to my daughter, as y'all know, works for Boys and Girls Club up at the national headquarters. They can dig. They're in contact with all of their clubs around the country, and obviously each one is their own not-for-profit. They can go in and dig into the weeds and give us percentages of where kids come from, where they graduate, what their cost per pupil is, how it's really affecting the neighborhood. And to me, that's measurable. Okay. That's what, to me, that's the replacement of, that's your return on investment. And so I think that's one of the things that we ought to have to, not we ought to have to, that should be considered in our requirements, our plan is show us how that return is going to happen in the community. And now that is above my pay grade, but my daughter has, they have a formula and I'm sure others do. But is that possible? Is that something that is a good idea or bad idea? Because it shows us, the public, and including the program that it's working. And I like that idea.
Yeah. Thank Commissioner Granger, your hand's up, sir. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I guess the way I look at just CRAs in general is that we are forcibly taking tax dollars away from businesses ad valorem, right? Away from businesses and landowners and building owners. And the idea there is to put it back in the community so that to fight blight. That was the whole purpose originally behind CRAs. So in my mind, I don't live in a CRA. I don't have a business in a CRA. I don't pay any taxes into a CRA. But if I were to go through a thought process and put myself in those folks' shoes amongst the 4 CRAs that we have, I would imagine that they would want to have the areas around them improved. And so that's really where I would want to incentivize that. And so that's where my headspace is with CRAs and how and what are the proper uses for CRA dollars. I absolutely agree that getting properties back on the tax rolls and looking nicer and producing things, that's the path that is probably going to bring blight down in these areas. But I don't necessarily think, like, if we wanted to go in and beautify a certain area, I don't necessarily think that would be a misuse of CRA dollars. We can argue over which one's more effective, and I would probably concede the point that a building being revitalized and coming back online would be more impactful. But I have no desire to try to do programming within a CRA or to try to fund programming because it doesn't go back to that fighting the blight piece.
Thank you. Commissioner Street?
Yeah, I think that's a great point, Brian. I mean, from the standpoint of what we look at and how we program our dollars, like I still go back to what we're talking about as far as like physical assets seem to be the place where we do the best. But I think about the Waterfront Partnership. They have a requirement every year to have to raise a match to the dollars that we even provide them, and they manage that. And when they don't own the building, actually the city does. So I think there's a lot of different models that we can look at. I think what Donna's doing with the A.D. Harris is moving into a continuous right direction, and I do foresee that it's going to be a self-sustaining thing that's incubating nonprofits, and it's continuing to do really well. And we're just kind of kickstarting that process, and she's helping us kind of dig out of the hole that we were in before. So I think on any of these facilities, things like that, I mean, I think that it's great investment. I would love to see us use more CBDG dollars or community block development grant dollars in conjunction with CRA dollars to make those go further. I do think that the paving program is a good example of how that can potentially work together. And maybe there's other ways that we can utilize that to see it, see more projects come to fruition. Because when we reduce blight, we're automatically we're reducing crime, we're raising the quality bars in our neighborhood, which is improving the quality of life as well as our own, our own neighborhoods. So anyway.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, I wanted just to kind of reiterate one more time. My advocation for money to go to Boys and Girls Club was not we should focus all the CRAs and all the districts on nonprofits and churches. That was not, it was specific to that one district. Was the projects presented were not compelling enough for the money, is my opinion. They were all very cute projects. They were all very nice projects, but in that one district, I would either say help Boys and Girls Club or save the money for next year to go specifically on a project. I think all the projects were very nice and cute. And the road, there was one about the widening the sidewalks, which would remove every bit of public parking from that district. Well, let's say 95% of it from that little main street. So this is not me advocating for nonprofits across Panama City and every CRA district. This is advocating for things that directly we can see. And I think Brian's point is, and well, my point is things that are evergreen, which you see for a long time, as opposed to programming something, which is you spend it once, it's gone. Buildings have more momentum than programming. Hope that clarifies it.
And I would like to piggyback on that and say that I guess my word now is process and how we go about it. And that's one of the things that will lesson to us with how we went about it for the Boys and Girls Club. And what's the need, criteria, put it through the process. And I'll come back to investing in people because we do these nice things. I've driven through urban neighborhoods and other cities that had wonderful projects on buildings, but they didn't invest in the people. So that building now they still use it, but it's not nice and new and well kept and so forth. And investing in people is one of the ways to pair those investments so they remain steady. And we do that, strategically. And we've talked either in this board or in our city commission roles about strategic planning and how to get there and move for sustenance. And so I'm about pairing the incentive dollars with increasing the bottom line, increasing the investments, increasing the returns so that those neighborhoods go up, but also we don't want to just put, new stuff in neighborhoods where we also need to invest in the people to bring them along as well.
Janice, does that mean explain invest in people? An example, if you don't mind.
So the workforce training is an example, right? We get the facility at A.D. Harris, we get the people, give them the instruction and the skill set. I had after Lucas Communications, I got another contract. It was through CDBG, partnered with Haney, brought in Kaleidoscope Learning at the time for the tutoring to go along with it, and put in there, I did it for 2 years. The first year, no skin in the game. The second year, they had to do a $25, but at the application fee. But at the end of it, they got their CNA. So now they moved from those restaurant jobs and those into a career. And when I got elected, one of those students was working as the admissions director at the VA nursing home. 3 others went on from that CNA to get to the master's level in nursing. That's the kind of investment I want to see in people, and I think government is positioned in a way to help that kind of investment go a long way. But it does take time to see it. It does take time to get return on the investment. And we do that by being a bridge to partnering. I didn't start my own CNA program. I partnered with Haney, partnered with, transportation and so forth. And then it is emotionally exhausting work because, you know, my mantra to them was, this is a life-changing opportunity. And so, yes, I did go to child support court with one of the students to say to the judge, hey, he is in a program trying to do better. And if you send him to jail for not paying child support, he loses this opportunity.
Mhm.
You know, I did work with a student who was behind on her water bill and was missing class that day because I checked on him every day. It is emotionally exhausting to do that, but there are programs in larger urban areas that have been able to do that. It is a matter of the will to provide the way, and so that we can do that. And so I share your concerns about investing and the return on what we do, and not just saying, you know, let's do what's efficient, let's do what's easy, and only that. Let's take some of the tough ones as well.
And but what you explained was measurable. So I mean, these people went on and got, you know, good jobs and educated, and so all that works. You know, mentoring with you know, the mentor program. I mean, the return on that is watching that, you know, watching the eyeballs light up and go, wow, this is cool. I'm smart and I want to learn. And so it may not be measurable at a commission meeting or to the public, but we can bring that in and say, let me tell you what's going on, what happened here. Or we bring that group in and tell us about it. That, unlike driving by a building, like Alan was saying, it's there, but it's not, you know, but all have a way to get a return. And I was just wondering how you see it. And I agree with that 100%. Yes, ma'am.
All right. Mr. Street, your hand's up, sir.
Yeah, I think it's a great discussion, you know, particularly when we talk about investing in people. I mean, the number one thing to invest in is education. I mean, that is, you know, where the majority of tax dollars go is actually in the education system when it comes to local taxes. And so I think, you know, it speaks to really the philosophical point of there are some things that government, because of its innate complexity, cannot do as well. Why do charter schools oftentimes overperform versus a standardized school, and including in significantly significantly low LMI areas? You see them take on this entire aspect of, we're focused on measurables, we're focused on outcomes, we're focused on those things. Whereas, you know, the maybe more traditional models are not so much that way. And a lot of it has to do with what, even I remember my mom, when she was finishing up in education, her last 7 years, she hated it. Why? Because there was just more and more regulation, Common Core. There was all of these complexities that just kept getting added, and she couldn't be focused on the outcomes that were existing in her classroom, and it made it less enjoyable. And so I do think, just like there's this element of maybe scrappiness that comes outside of the four walls of a city hall or a Nelson building or whatever you want to say, there's also this aspect of freedom from the restraint that innately comes from the complexity of government. Guys, from 5 years ago to now, we have never been more regulated from a state level than we are today. And I've watched slowly by slowly more and more decisions be taken away from local government and be pushed to a Tallahassee. And so this is just a process that sometimes the aspect of allowing organizations, maybe with our support, maybe without it, or maybe just being a conduit of encouragement and fundraising or whatever it may be, you can see that the outcomes are consistently improving inside of that operates outside of government versus what operates inside of that. No offense to the staff team that's on the call, but they do have very complex jobs. And having organizations that are laser focused on one piece, history, taking care of a building, operating a museum, doing after school care, it allows them to be innately more focused than this organization that has got to be all things to all people. And so I think that's another spot where we have more opportunity for support by helping things get into the hands of those that can be the most focused.
That's just, Thank you, Brandy. Sorry, I'm getting fussed at by Miss Waldron. It's well deserved. Anybody else? I don't see anybody's hands up, but a couple of you are unmuted. So any remaining thoughts or comments from the board? All right. Well, everyone have a blessed evening. And I did see that Mr. Granger and Mr. Street sent their checklist in during this meeting. So they were multitasking. So
doing your homework before the bell rings.
For full disclosure,
Hey,
for
hey,
full
hey,
disclosure,
hey.
I had turned in my CRA book, so I had to go to City Hall and get the documents, and I'm gonna fill them out tonight. So I have my homework.
Yeah.
Remember,
I
I gave
just
them to you. I
copied
gave you
the
the book.
people over. So
Yeah,
don't.
you should have gotten it via email, Commissioner Hughes, where you can just do it electronically. That's everyone else is doing it that way.
It's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, I got it. I'm doing my homework
Okay.
tonight. I'm good.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right, Commissioner Lucas, do you have anything else to add, ma'am? Or are you good?
No, thank you for the dialogue, gentlemen. I think we can, I understand where you are. I hope you understand where I am. And we can take a leadership role in helping to solve these problems that education can't solve by itself and so forth, just as we do with the brick and mortar ones.
Awesome. Well, everyone have a blessed evening and take care.